What if I told you that the clock on your wrist is lying to you? Not because it is broken, not because the battery is fading, but because of where you are standing. What if I told you that two perfectly identical clocks, built in the same factory, wound by the same hands, set to the same second, can be placed in two different spots in this universe, left alone for a year, and when you bring them back together, they will disagree. And here is the part that should make you lean forward in your chair. Both of them will be right. I see your face. I understand that expression. It is the same one my colleagues made when I first shared these ideas. A polite smile, a small nod, and behind the eyes, a quiet voice saying, "That cannot possibly be true." But stay with me, because I promise you, by the time we are finished here tonight, you will never look at a clock the same way again. You will look up at the sky, and you will feel, perhaps for the first time, the strange and beautiful vertigo of understanding that the universe is far more extraordinary than anything you were taught in school. Let us begin not with equations. You see this blackboard behind me? Yes, full of symbols. Ignore it for now. We will not need it. What we need is something far more powerful than mathematics. We need imagination. Close your eyes for a moment, or don't. Perhaps it is easier to simply picture this alongside me. Imagine you are standing in an open field on a summer morning. The grass is cool and damp beneath your feet. The sky above you is the kind of deep, unbothered blue you only see before the world gets busy. And you are holding two clocks, one in each hand, perfectly matched, perfectly identical. They tick together, in unison, like two heartbeats sharing the same rhythm. Tick, tick, tick. Now imagine that a great invisible hand reaches down and lifts one of those clocks, gently, carefully, and carries it straight up into the sky, higher and higher, past the clouds, past the birds, past the thin skin of air that we call our atmosphere, up into space, where the stars are cold and the silence is total. And your other clock, it stays here, with you, on the ground. Both clocks are ticking, both clocks are running. No one has tampered with them. No one has changed the batteries or bent the hands. And yet, and this is where everything you believe about time begins to tremble, the clock up in space will tick faster than the clock in your hand. Not by some enormous dramatic amount, not at first. We are talking about tiny fractions of a second over the course of a day. But the gap is real. It is measurable. We have measured it. And it is one of the most profound discoveries in the history of human understanding. Time itself runs at different speeds, in different places. Time is not a constant river flowing at the same pace everywhere. It is more like a river over uneven ground. In some places it rushes, in some places it slows. And what determines the speed? What is the invisible hand that reaches into the river of time and pulls it back? Gravity. Now, I need to tell you something about gravity, because I suspect you know a version of it, the version Isaac Newton gave us. And it is a beautiful version, truly, but it is incomplete. Newton told us that gravity is a force, a pull, an invisible rope between massive objects. The earth pulls you, you pull the earth. The sun pulls the earth pulls the moon. Invisible ropes everywhere, in all directions. And for 200 years, this was enough. It explained the tides. It explained why the planets orbit as they do. It was a magnificent achievement, and I say this with deep respect for that great man. But I had a question that Newton's ropes could not answer. Sit with me in the year 1905 for a moment. I was 26 years old. I was working as a clerk in a patent office in the city of Bern, Switzerland. reviewing other people's inventions all day, nothing very glamorous. And in my spare moments, in the quiet corners of my mind, I was thinking about light. You see, light always travels at the same speed, always. No matter how fast you are moving, no matter how fast the source of light is moving, the light itself arrives at the same speed. This is strange. This is deeply, magnificently strange. Because in normal life, if you are running and you throw a ball forward, that ball moves at your speed, plus the speed of the throw. Add them together. Simple arithmetic. But light does not do this. Light ignores you. Light does not care how fast you are moving. It arrives at the same speed regardless. And if light's speed must remain constant, if that is the one thing the universe refuses to negotiate, then something else must give. Something else must bend and flex to keep that constant intact. That something else is time. Let me show you what I mean with a little thought experiment. This is one of my favorites. Imagine you are on a very long train, the fastest train ever built. And it is moving at a tremendous speed across an open plain. Inside the train car, you have a very special clock. Not a clock with hands or numbers, but a clock made of light. A single beam of light that bounces up and down between two mirrors, one on the floor and one on the ceiling. Every time the light touches the bottom mirror, that is one tick. Simple. Clean. A light clock. Now you are sitting inside the train, watching this light go straight up and straight down, up, down, tick, tick, tick. But imagine someone standing outside the train, on the platform, watching you zoom by. What do they see? They see the light leave the bottom mirror. But by the time the light travels up to the top mirror, the train has moved forward. So from their perspective, the light did not go straight up. It traveled on a diagonal, and then it comes back down on another diagonal. Instead of a straight line up and down, the outside observer sees the light tracing a zigzag pattern, like the path of a bouncing ball seen from the side. Now, here is the crucial question. The speed of light is the same for everyone. We agreed on that. It cannot change. But the outside observer sees the light traveling a longer path. Those diagonals are longer than a straight up and down line. If the path is longer and the speed cannot change, then the only thing that can change is the time it takes. The outside observer sees the clock ticking more slowly than you see it inside the train. The same clock. Two observers. Two different tick rates. And neither of them is wrong. This is not an illusion. This is not a trick of perception. Both experiences are equally real, equally valid. Time itself is passing at genuinely different rates for the two of them. This is what I call the special theory of relativity, and it shows us that time is not a backdrop, not a fixed universal stage upon which events are performed. Time is part of the performance itself. Time participates in what happens. But we were not finished, because this only accounts for motion. What about standing still? In the years after 1905, I could not rest. I kept returning to a question that nagged at me like a loose thread. My special theory covered what happens when things move. But what about the everyday situation? What about simply being somewhere? What about the clock on your kitchen wall, which is not moving at all, just hanging there, ticking away while you make your morning coffee? And then one afternoon, I remember it vividly, the light in the room was low, golden. A thought arrived that I later described as the happiest thought of my life. I imagined a man falling, not a sad image, a liberating one. Imagine a man in an elevator, and the cable snaps. The elevator begins to fall freely downward. Now what does the man inside feel? Nothing. No weight, no pressure. he is floating. If he takes his keys from his pocket and lets go, they hover in front of him. Everything inside that elevator is falling together, and so, relative to each other, nothing is being pulled anywhere. There is no sensation of gravity at all. Now here is what this tells us. Gravity and acceleration feel identical. You cannot tell, from the inside of a closed room, whether you are being pulled down by gravity or being pushed up by a rocket engine. They produce exactly the same sensations. They are, in some deep and fundamental way, the same thing. This was the seed of the general theory of relativity, and it bloomed into something that reshaped our understanding of space, time, and the very nature of the universe. I need you to do something for me. I need you to let go of the idea that space is empty. We are so used to thinking of space as nothing, as the blank, featureless void between things. A container, a stage, nothingness with objects placed inside it. But space is not nothing, and time is not separate from it. They are woven together into a single fabric, a four-dimensional tapestry that I call space-time. And this fabric has a property that empty containers do not have. It can bend. Here is my favorite way to picture it. Take a large rubber sheet, like a trampoline. Pull it taut at the edges so it is flat and smooth. Now place a bowling ball in the center. What happens? The sheet dips. It curves downward under the weight of the ball. If you now roll a marble across the sheet, it will not travel in a straight line. It will curve toward the bowling ball, spiraling inward, orbiting the depression. Now here is the extraordinary thing. This is not just a picture of gravity. This is gravity, mass. Any mass, yours, mine, the Earth's, the Sun's, curves the fabric of space-time around it, and what we experience as the force of gravity pulling us toward the Earth. That is not a force at all. That is us following the natural curved paths in a bent space-time. We are not being pulled. We are rolling along the curves. Newton saw the rope. I saw the curve. And this changes everything, because if space-time is a fabric, if it is a real physical thing that can be bent and stretched, then it stands to reason that what happens in space-time is also affected by those bends, including time. Let us go back to our two clocks. The clock up in space, far from the Earth. What is it experiencing? It is resting in a region where space-time is relatively flat. The Earth's mass is far away, the curvature is gentle, and time flows near its natural, undisturbed pace. The clock on the ground, your clock in your hand, is deep in the curve. It is sitting at the bottom of the trampoline depression created by Earth's enormous mass. And down there, in the thick of that curvature, something remarkable happens. Time moves more slowly. Not because the clock is broken, not because of any mechanical effect, but because time itself, the very fabric, is stretched and compressed by mass. Heavy things bend space-time, and bent space-time means slower time. The closer you are to a massive object, the slower time runs for you. This is gravitational time dilation, and before you dismiss it as a theoretical curiosity, let me tell you something that should make it feel very, very real. You have almost certainly used it today. If you used GPS navigation, your telephone telling you turn left here, the coffee shop is 3 blocks ahead. You relied on a constellation of satellites orbiting the Earth. Those satellites carry extremely precise atomic clocks, and those clocks, up in orbit where gravity is weaker, tick slightly faster than clocks on the ground. If the engineers who designed the GPS system had not accounted for this difference, if they had simply assumed that time passes at the same rate everywhere, your GPS would drift by several kilometers every single day. The technology would be useless The satellites would confidently point you into a river. But they did account for it, because the physics is real, because time genuinely runs differently, depending on where you are in a gravitational field. Einstein's equations, written in that patent office, on scraps of paper, in stolen moments, are quietly running inside your telephone, making sure you arrive at the right address. Is that not extraordinary? Now I want to take you somewhere more dramatic. Let us leave Earth's gentle gravity behind and venture into the deeper, stranger territories of the universe. Imagine a star, much more massive than our sun. At the end of its long life, it has burned through all its fuel. For millions of years, the nuclear fire at its core pushed outward, holding the star's own gravity at bay. A constant tug of war, gravity trying to crush inward, energy pushing outward. But when the fuel runs out, the fire dies, and gravity, patient, tireless, unyielding gravity, wins. The star collapses inward in a matter of seconds, all that mass crushing down into an object perhaps only 20 kilometers across. This is what we call a neutron star, and a neutron star's gravity is so ferocious, so concentrated, that if you could stand on its surface, which you absolutely could not, for many reasons, you would weigh approximately 10 billion times more than you weigh right now. And time on the surface of a neutron star flows at perhaps 70 or 80% the rate it flows out here, far from it. 1 second on the neutron star is not 1 second in distant space. Time has been squeezed. If somehow you could stand on that surface for what felt to you like a year of your own heartbeats and breathing and experience, more than a year would have passed for someone watching you from far away. You would have aged differently. Time itself would have written different stories on your body and on theirs. But even a neutron star is not the most extreme destination we can visit in this thought experiment. What if the star is massive enough that even after the collapse, gravity continues to win? What if even the neutron star cannot hold itself up against its own crushing weight? Then the collapse continues and continues, and we reach something that, when I first encountered the mathematics that described it, I could not quite believe was physically real. A black hole. A black hole is what happens when mass is concentrated into a region so small, and the space-time curvature around it becomes so extreme that nothing, not matter, not light, nothing, can escape once it has crossed a certain boundary. We call this boundary the event horizon. It is the point of no return. Cross it, and the universe beyond is gone forever. But I want to tell you what happens to time near a black hole, because it is perhaps the most astonishing consequence of everything we have discussed. Imagine you could watch a friend, a brave, perhaps slightly reckless friend, falling toward a black hole. You are watching from a safe distance, far away, and your friend is drifting toward that event horizon in a small spacecraft, sending you radio signals to keep in touch. What do you see? As your friend approaches the event horizon, something strange begins to happen. The signals arrive more and more slowly. Your friend seems to be moving in slow motion. Their voice, when you receive it, is lower in pitch, stretched out. Their gestures, their movements, all becoming more and more sluggish, like a film being played at half speed, then quarter speed. And then, this is the part that takes my breath away even now. As your friend reaches the event horizon, they seem to freeze. Their image grows dimmer, their signals stop coming. They appear to hang at the edge of that boundary, suspended, not crossing, not moving, just still. From your perspective, they never quite fall in. Time around them in the intense gravitational field of the black hole, has slowed to such an extreme that it would take an infinite amount of your time to see them cross that threshold. Now, what does your friend experience? Very differently. To them, time flows normally. They cross the horizon, perhaps without even noticing the precise moment they do. And beyond it, well, that is a story for another evening. But here is what I want you to hold. The same event, a person crossing a boundary, happens at completely different times, depending on where you are watching from. Not because of miscommunication, not because of the limitations of our instruments, but because time itself is running at fundamentally different rates in different places. Time is relative, time is local. Your time and my time are not the same time. Let me bring you back, now, from the extreme frontiers of the universe to something quieter and more intimate. Think about Mount Everest. The summit of Everest is roughly 8.5 kilometers above sea level, 8.5 kilometers farther from Earth's center than the streets of, say, Kolkata or New York or London. And because of this, the summit is ever so slightly farther from Earth's mass, ever so slightly higher up the gravitational curve. Time at the summit of Everest passes just a tiny fraction faster than it does at sea level. If you were to spend your entire life at the summit of Everest, from birth to old age, compared to an identical twin who lived at sea level, you would age a vanishingly small amount more than your twin by the time you both reached the end. We're talking about microseconds over a lifetime, far too small to ever feel or notice. But the principle is the same one that governs neutron stars and black holes. The geometry is the same. The physics is identical. It is only the scale that differs. This means that you, right now, at whatever altitude you are sitting, are aging at a very slightly different rate than someone sitting on a mountaintop, who is aging at a very slightly different rate than an astronaut in orbit, who is aging at a very slightly different rate than someone who will one day stand, I hope in some distant future of human exploration, on the surface of a planet twice as massive as our own. We are all moving through time, but we are not all moving through it at the same pace. We never were. We just did not know it. I want to say something now that goes beyond physics, because I think the deepest gift of science is not the practical application, the GPS satellites, the precision of our instruments. The deepest gift is the shift it creates in how you see the world. When I was a young man, I looked at a clock and saw an ordinary thing, a device for measuring an ordinary, universal, unchanging flow. The universe's metronome, ticking equally everywhere, for everyone, forever. Now when I look at a clock, I see something astonishing. I see a local measurement. I see a small instrument reporting on the rate of time in this particular place, at this particular depth, in the gravitational field of this particular planet. I see a reading that would change, that is changing right now, even as we speak, for anyone who is even slightly higher or lower in the sky. Time does not simply pass. It moves differently depending on where you are and how you are moving. It is not a river, but a landscape. Hills and valleys, curves and dips, all of it shaped by the mass of the things that exist within it. The universe is not a machine ticking along to a single clock. It is a vast, undulating fabric, bending wherever matter collects, and time, your time, my time, the time of every living thing that has ever existed, is an expression of that local geometry, an expression of the shape of space itself. There is something I have always found deeply moving about this. We human beings tend to think of ourselves as observers of the universe, standing slightly outside it, looking in. We build our telescopes, we write our equations, we try to understand the things out there as if we ourselves are neutral, unaffected, above the fray. But we are not outside the universe. We are inside the curve. We are deep in the trampoline depression created by this magnificent planet, and every heartbeat we experience, every second that passes as we breathe and think and dream and love, is a heartbeat happening at the particular rate that Earth's gravity permits for us, here, at this depth in space-time. We are not observers of the universe's geometry. We live inside it. We are shaped by it. We are it. So let me leave you with this. The next time you glance at a clock, the one on your wall, the one on your wrist, the one in the corner of your telephone screen, I want you to pause for just a moment. That clock is not measuring some absolute, universal, God-given flow of time. It is measuring your time. The time at this location, at this depth in the gravitational field of a planet that is itself moving through the curved space-time created by a star we call the Sun. It is a local reading, a personal report, a number that belongs, in the most intimate sense, to here and now, somewhere above you, on the satellites that orbit this planet. Clocks are ticking slightly faster, somewhere in the dense core of a neutron star 1,000 light-years away. If any clocks could survive there, they would be ticking achingly slowly. And at the edge of a black hole's event horizon, time barely moves at all. The whole future of the universe might pass in what you would experience as an afternoon. Time is not a wall we walk alongside, all of us in step, all of us keeping pace. Time is the terrain we walk through, and the terrain is uneven, shaped by mass and gravity into hills and valleys that we cannot see, but that our clocks, if we listen closely enough, will faithfully report. Newton gave us a universe with one clock, a clock for everyone, ticking in unison, as reliable and universal as God's own heartbeat. It was a beautiful universe, orderly, reassuring, a universe where time was the one thing you could always count on, the one thing that was the same for everyone. But the universe, it seems, had other plans. The universe is stranger than Newton imagined, and stranger than I am even able to fully convey to you tonight. It is a place where time bends around mass, like light bends around glass, where your altitude above the ground determines how fast you age, by a tiny but perfectly real amount. Where two clocks can part company, travel different paths through the cosmos, and return with different readings, and both of them are right. Where time itself is not the stage, but the performer, not the container, but the thing contained, not the background to the story, but the story itself. I have spent my life trying to understand this universe, and what I have found, at every turn, is that it is stranger, more beautiful, more generous with its mysteries than I could have dared to hope. Every answer opens a new question. Every light we shine into the darkness reveals a larger darkness beyond, studded with new stars. You came here tonight, perhaps, expecting me to talk about equations, to draw symbols on a blackboard and explain what they mean. But equations are just the map. The territory, the actual thing we are talking about, is this: the universe you live in, the clocks on your walls, the planet beneath your feet, and the space above your head, and the time that is, right now, passing at the specific rate that this location in the cosmos permits for you. You have always been inside the greatest mystery ever discovered. You just did not know it. Now you do. And when you leave here tonight, and you step outside under the open sky, and you look up at the stars, those ancient, patient, enormous things. I hope you will feel, even for just a moment, the strange and vertiginous wonder of knowing that you are not looking at a static backdrop. You are looking at curves, you are looking at gravity, you are looking at the bends and folds in a fabric that includes time itself. And the clock in your pocket is not measuring eternity, it is measuring you here, now, in this one extraordinary, unrepeatable location, in a universe that is far grander, far stranger, and, if you will allow me the word, far more beautiful than any of us ever imagined. Time bends, and we bend with it.